Kung Fu is designed for self-defense, and there really is no negating or denying that fact. However, when I do say self-defense, I don't mean that you should only limit yourself to defensive blocks and defensive maneuvers. What I mean is that you shouldn't be the one initiating the fight in the first place. You shouldn't be the one attacking someone else. Let's say someone were to throw a swinging punch at you and you were to block it. It's great that you haven't been hit. It's great that you've put yourself in a safer position. However, does that really stop them from throwing another punch? Does that really guarantee that the fight is over? In my previous video, I mentioned that Wing Chun is a great sub-style of Kung Fu because it finishes a fight as quickly as possible. But you can't finish a fight without counterattacks. And that's what I'll be talking about in the rest of this video. There are countless punches you can use as a counterattack. And later in the video, I will be talking more about the Wing Chun Straight punch, as that's the one most commonly used. However, before that, I'll talk about a couple of other punches which you may encounter or use yourself. The first one is the swinging punch, also known as a haymaker. This is something you might see lots of inexperienced fighters using because it's lots of pulling back. It's very clear to see that they're going to throw a punch. It tends to have lots of power, but it takes a lot of time to actually initiate. And I definitely would not recommend using this punch. It's quite slow and not worth the time. Also, in a future video, I'll show you how to block a punch like this, as it's quite common to see someone punch like that. Next is the hook punch. This has a similar direction of motion. You would have one foot forward, and on your back foot, you would pivot as you throw the hook punch. It's important to make sure that your wrist is straight so that it doesn't hit at an awkward angle and get you hurt. And as you pivot, you would throw your fist in a hook shape. There's also a Wing Chun variation of the hook punch called the Wing Chun hook punch, which is a lot like a whip motion or like a belt, where you throw it and use your speed and shock tactics to hit them. Another very common punch is a uppercut, and I'm sure you've heard of this before. A common mistake people use when doing an uppercut is they go straight up. However, if you were to go straight up, your opponent could simply move back and wouldn't be harmed. So it's important to make sure you go upwards and forwards at the same time, just to prevent that possibility. Again, this can be done on both hands. There's also a back fist punch or a hammer fist punch, which is quite a powerful punch, but I try not to use it. The reason I try not to use it is to initiate the punch, you actually need to be facing away from your opponent. This may be when you have missed a kick and now need to rotate back by doing a back fist, or maybe the other way. This, as I said earlier, is very powerful, but try not to use it too much. It's not great to be in a situation where you have to use it. And finally, there is the Wing Chun Straight punch. I will be talking more about this later in the video, but I'll just show you what it looks like for now. You can go very fast with it, and it's a great punch in my opinion. But before going on to the Wing Chun Straight punch and more specifics, it's important to know how to actually form a fist, as this is an area where many people make mistakes, and it's vital to understand how to do so. So, how do you form a proper fist when punching? I'll go through a few key things which you should make sure you don't do. The first one is make sure you're not doing a thumbs up to your opponent. I have seen many people doing this, and it's not great, just in case your thumb gets stuck in a piece of fabric or anything which pulls it back. If you're going with lots of power and speed, that will definitely hurt. Similarly, don't have your thumb like this. That will still have the same impact, even though it's less. There's a lower chance of it making contact. And another very similar one is don't have your thumb pointing outwards, as when you make contact, your thumb will be the first to make contact with your opponent, and your thumb will take all the pressure, and that will really hurt, so don't do that. Also, when forming a fist, try not to wrap your thumb inside your fist. It may feel natural sometimes, but upon impact, it would push your thumb backwards, leading it to break. And once again, that's not a great thing. So you must be wondering, how do you form a fist perfectly? All you'd have to do is just make sure your thumb is down the line of your fist, out of the way. So when you do punch, your fist makes impact first, nothing else. Also, when you do punch, make sure that your wrist is straight, it's not bent. As I did mention a bit earlier, if you punch with a bent wrist, if you've got lots of power behind the punch, there's a good chance your fist will break. So it's important to make sure your fist is straight and goes straight in. So those are the two key main things. Once again, make sure your thumb is down the side and your fist is straight. So the Wing Chun Straight punch. There are a few key things you shouldn't do when doing the Wing Chun Straight punch in terms of form and style. You shouldn't have your elbows up, as this exposes your whole upper body and makes you very vulnerable. Also, you shouldn't throw your straight punches like this, as this opens up your center line. Just for some context, your center line is the line which goes down your center, and this has quite a few important parts of your body, such as the neck, your solar plexus, your liver, your groin. All of these are vulnerable positions, and if you open up your guard so that you aren't protecting your center line, you could get hurt. And that's the reason why when you're doing Wing Chun punches, they go one over each other, down the center line. Notice how when I do my Wing Chun punches, they are in line with my nose. They're not too high, not too low. This is important to maximize the amount of power you can initiate and get from your punch. It's also important to notice that I'm going in a bicycle chain-like motion, one over each other. In general, the Wing Chun punch can be used very fast. It might not have as much power as a hook punch, but the number of Wing Chun punches you can throw at once is what makes it so effective and impactful. At first, it might be quite tricky to throw multiple Wing Chun punches at once, as it does require endurance, and the way to build that up is to just keep practicing. Maybe start at 1 minute, then 1 minute 10, and keep building up from there. I'll show you what it looks like to do Wing Chun punches simultaneously very fast, as this is what it would hopefully look like in a street fight. Of course, as I said, to get there, you need to practice a lot to make sure your form's correct, as without good form, you could get injured, and that wouldn't be a great thing. So do make sure you practice that, make sure your Wing Chun punch is effective and useful. Once again, it is really a great punch. It goes straight down the center towards your opponent. It's not expected. It's quite a fast motion, which will take them by surprise, and there's a high chance you will be able to hit them with a Wing Chun Straight punch. So do make sure you practice that, and thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe below and leave a like, and maybe even leave a comment if there's anything you would like to see in the future, and I hope to see you soon.